Our guest today on Perspectives is Greg Leonhard, and he is the commander of the Crime Enforcement Agency of Ashtabula County, or CEAS. And up until the end of June, that was better known as TAG, was the Trumbull Ashtabula Group Task Force. And before that, it was Trumbull, Ashtabula, and Geauga. And so what happened that caused the Trumbull and Ashtabula County to sort of part ways in this?
Well, the sheriff in Trumbull County decided that he wanted to take the task force in Trumbull County in a different direction. He reached out or had a conversation with Sheriff Johnson, and the two come to an agreement as far as of the separation. So we are venturing now on our own and moving forward.
So it's kind of uncharted territory in a way. But from what you were talking about, it's not going to just be drugs, but maybe some of the peripheral problems that have been caused by drugs, crimes and such, that if Conneaut or Ashtabula needs help in investigating a crime.
Right, we're going to be available to be utilized in all different areas of that maybe a agency on their own wouldn't have the manpower to deal with. We're going to be available to be called upon to assist with investigations, more serious crimes. Also, we're going to work on and pass along information on gangs, because really gangs and drugs pretty much go hand in hand. So we're going to try to be very invested in all of our communities in Ashtabula County with the new task force.
So who makes up this new CEAS, formerly TAG?
Well, initially it's going to be investigators, obviously, from the Sheriff's Office, Ashtabula Police Department, Geneva Police Department, and the Conneaut Police Department. And hopefully we'll be able to build on that through other types of ventures with federal agencies, and even try to get our villages involved in participating in the task force. But that's something that we can work on down the road.
Like North Kingsville or Orwell or...
Right. I mean, because they have their own problems, and the problems they have really, for the most part, they're the wisest in that area. I mean, so we're going to need to rely on them to. So if say Andover has a problem, we're going to be able to be more effective in dealing or helping that agency with that problem.
I know that before that Geneva had an officer, he was being reimbursed by TAG, was it, for some of his efforts because he was working a lot with TAG?
Right. It was primarily for overtime.
Okay.
Geneva, for several years now, Geneva has really stepped to the front under the TAG umbrella as far as assigning somebody. Chris Cahill has spent a lot of time with us over the last several years, and Geneva has paid his salary out of Geneva's budget. We have dealt with the TAG. They assisted with buy money, and really it paid dividends for the city of Geneva. When we've had somebody from the cities, whether it was Geneva, Ashtabula, or Conneaut, when somebody has worked with us in the task force, it has produced results in those areas. Because, for the primary part of this time with TAG, especially since Geauga left, it's just been 2 investigators. We've only had 2 full-time drug investigators within Ashtabula County.
And that's not enough.
No, that's not enough. It's not even close.
No.
I mean, I've always said that, for the most part, we could be nothing but more than a fly at a picnic.
Yeah.
All we were is a nuisance and an annoyance, and I think that with this development of this new task force, I think we're going to be able to be far more effective.
Well, did the Geneva officer and the people from Ashtabula, did they end up spending a lot of time in Trumbull County then?
No,
working with them?
Not a lot. For the most part, if they would have a search warrant in Trumbull County, we would go down and assist them, and that wasn't even all the time.
Right.
The vast majority of the time, I would say 95% of the time, we still were in Ashtabula County. So I really didn't see that as much of a problem as far as being pulled away. We still, now the Geneva officer spent a lot of time in Ashtabula.
Right.
Okay, but with that being said, Geneva's drug problem is related to Ashtabula.
Absolutely.
So what was occurring in Ashtabula had an effect on Geneva. And, the Chief Dudick and now Chief Wiley both have seen that. They know the big picture here. So they've been very invested in knowing that Chris would be a lot of times outside of Geneva City. But we did have a lot more drug investigations going on in Geneva City when Chris was able to spend time with us.
I mean, if they knew that there was a growing drug problem or something going on in Ashtabula, it was going to hit Geneva pretty quick.
Well, and let's face it, a lot of the people that have drug problems in Geneva are driving to Ashtabula
Yes.
To make their purchases. So it's like I said, it's the big picture.
Well, I know from having worked in the news media in Trumbull County for a while that they have a definite drug problem too, and drug overdoses for a while there. I don't hear quite as much about it, but there were drug overdoses every day and deaths often in that area.
Yeah, actually, in Trumbull County, they're on the rise again. They had a year and a half probably of a slower period, but they've been back on the rise in Trumbull County, and that really per capita, they've been on the rise again in Ashtabula County. We're seeing a lot more of that again.
It's kind of depressing to look at Sheriff's Department reports, which I used to do every week, and almost everything came back to drugs. You had somebody stole a tractor from a building or something, and turns out it would be something, buddy sold it for drugs, or they broke into a house and they took coins or something, and they were pawned for drugs or whatever. It just seems like everything almost comes back to drugs. Violence, somebody's drinking, somebody's on drugs.
Yes, everything is just about related one way or another to the drug problem we have. And is there an easy solution? No, but the new task force basically, I think we're going to be able to not only spend more time on the drug enforcement end of this, but we're also going to be able to spend more time on the working with our community partners on the education end, on the treatment end. So I think to be effective, you need all that working in the same direction. And unfortunately, when there was only two primary investigators in Ashtabula County, we were, as far as us partnering with them, that was a weak spot. So I look to try to improve on that with the new task force.
Now, what you needed to do is get those kids when they're young and take them out camping in Pymatuming and let them know the police officers aren't all bad guys, and you can have fun with them, and then they don't do the drugs in the first place, right?
Well, I think the big part of that is that to try to show them that there are opportunities out there, that, like you said, that law enforcement people are human too. We make mistakes, we make bad decisions, but also it's good for them to see the human side of this.
Right.
The only time most kids have a dealing with law enforcement is when somebody's getting arrested or a marked car's driving through a neighborhood and they see a guy behind a window.
Right.
So yes, that's something we got to step out of our box. We got our comfort zones. We got to start communicating. And I think, go ahead.
Oh, just for people that don't know exactly what I was talking about with that cryptic comment, was in May, it was an idea you had, right?
Yes.
Beginning? Third year is that local law enforcement take kids, some often underprivileged or minority kids, and they have a weekend of camping in Pymatuming, and they go on boats and they do archery.
Fishing.
I did some archery there.
Yes. Canoeing.
Fishing, yes.
And just sleeping in tents.
Sure.
So, I have an interesting, real quick story on that. Is Saturday morning, I had a kid in Kinsman Police Department has a golf cart. It has all kind of lights and stuff on it. But anyway, I was taking the kids Saturday morning before breakfast for rides in the golf cart, and we drove down by Pymatuming Lake. And one of the kids I had on my golf cart lived in Ashtabula City. And he made a comment to me when he looked out over Pymatuming and said, "I've never seen that much water before in my life." And he lives a mile from Lake Erie.
Yeah.
That to me was incredible.
Yeah.
But that tells you a lot of these kids don't have an opportunity to get outside of their neighborhood, or they don't have the options.
You know, that is
So-
very, very common. I heard a story from somebody from the Conneaut Library, and they were having a library program. And this kid, they were talking about Lake Erie, and this kid says, well, that sounds really interesting. Is it big, Lake Erie? And it was a program in Conneaut. And, you know, they shop at Dollar General, they shop at the stores around downtown Conneaut, they get the groceries at Golden Dawn. They never leave, you know, the certain number of blocks in Conneaut. So, I mean, that I know that when I asked the kids, I interviewed them at Pymatuming, have you ever done this before? If they'd said yes, it was because they did it the previous year with you guys.
Yeah, we've had repeat kids, and we want to continue that. We like having a good blend of kids that have been there before and kids that are new. So, you know, some kids, they're obviously coming, they're very uneasy. I remember Sally Bradley telling me the first year she rode on the bus down from Ashtabula, and she said there was a lot of apprehension. You know, you're going a ways away from home, you're going to sleep out in tents, and you're going really primarily to spend the weekend with a bunch of cops.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of apprehension, and she said there was kids that were really nervous. But she said by the afternoon on Saturday, some of those same kids were telling her, I want to be a cop. And, you know,
What a change around.
Yes. So, I mean, the goal isn't to try to brainwash anybody or anything like that. We just want to, a lot of these kids are maybe sometimes stuck in hopelessness, and we want to show them that there are opportunities out there. That's why we bring a lot of minority law enforcement in for the weekend, so they can show that, you know, this can be done. And these are fine examples of people that have really accomplished a lot in the law enforcement community.
Actually, they're probably being brainwashed more on the other end. They've got fathers or brothers or whatever, they've been arrested, and they've been told, you know, watch for the cops, and if the cops come to the door, let me know so I can run out the back, and giving this cryptic, evil connotation to police officers.
Well, I think that that's where we need to have more communication. That's where we need to be more involved. You know, we're always isolating ourselves in groups, you know, and when you isolate yourself in a group, you communicate within your group, but you don't communicate from group to group.
Right.
And we're never going to get past this if we don't break out. Somebody needs to reach across the aisle and have somebody on the other side to come back at you. I mean, you know, this could never be a point of blame, and that's the biggest mistake we make, is that we're too busy blaming each other.
But it'd be a lot easier just to stop this or minimize the drug problem before it starts than to investigate and
Yes. I'm a firm believer that we need to invest in the children. You know, we've had, you know, you can look back, you know, at the DARE program, and, you know, there's ways of looking at that, whether it was good or it was bad, or if it was successful or it wasn't. But at least we were doing something.
Right.
And I think that we need to do more than just in the school. You know, they go to school and they're, you know, you got to learn this, you got to learn that.
right, state testing and all that.
I think being involved, like I said, with the camp out, or where there's a lot of other good things going on with the kids. There needs to be more of an investment than just doing it at school. You know, they go home for the summer, and, you know,
Right.
they forget. So,
Okay, we got like 30 seconds left.
well, one thing I would like to add
Okay.
here, because this is very important to this new task force.
Okay.
I am very proud of our elected officials. Catherine Whittington, Commissioner Whittington, has facilitated a great deal of what is occurring right now. I firmly believe that if it wasn't for her, we may not even be talking about a new task force right now. Sheriff Johnson has had conversations with OCJS in Columbus. He's done a lot of the work with coming to an agreement with Sheriff Monroe. Nick Irochi and the police
County
chiefs.
prosecutor, okay.
Yes, they've just done an awesome job. I mean,
We got to go.
So-
Greg Leonhard, thank you very much.
oh, you're very welcome anytime.